Chapter 21. Ryder Retrieve. Jenna was too shocked to scream. She knew that there was nothing but thin air between her and Raven's Rock far below. But as Spitfire felt the weight behind his neck disappear, something instinctive kicked in, something that, unknown to Spitfire, all human-imprinted dragons possessed. Ryder Retrieve. As Jenna fell, Spitfire dropped like a rock and grabbed her with his feet. 2 seconds later he was carrying Jenna in his talons as an eagle carries its prey. Wolfboy was frantic. He could not see Jenna dangling below. All he knew was that she was no longer there. "Jenna!" he yelled. "Jenna!" 409! Came an answering voice, or so he thought. "Where's she gone, Stanley?" asked Donnie, peevishly. "I do think that's a bit much, just getting off like that. I mean, who's going to fly this thing now? I'd like to know." "Oh, do be quiet, Donnie," snapped Stanley, dreading what he was going to see. The rat peered out over the great black spines of the dragon, but all he could see was Spitfire's fat stomach. 409! Came Jenna's voice, almost blown away by the wind. "Jenna?" Wolfboy twisted around to see if she was behind him, but there was nothing. He looked down to see if she was clinging on below him, but he saw nothing except Spitfire's belly. 409, I'm here!" Wolfboy began to wonder if he was imagining it. Where was she? Spitfire had turned back toward the castle and was descending now, slowly and carefully. Wolfboy looked down, scanning the ground, fearing the worst. They flew over Raven's Rock across the new boat blockade, which spanned the river and stopped any Sychanese-infested boats from arriving at the port, and now they were heading toward the quay below Sally Mullen's tea and alehouse. Customers were running from the cafe, and Wolfboy could see people milling around, looking up and pointing excitedly. As Spitfire came in lower, Wolfboy could hear what they were saying. "It's the princess! That wizard dragon's taken the princess! Look at her just hanging there! Oh my! Oh my! Dead! Don't say that! She can't be! She can't! Well, she ain't doing much! Ain't much she can do, stuck in them claws like that! I always said that that dragon would turn! They all do! Look! Look! She's moving! She's alive! Look! He's coming down! He's going to squash her! Ah! I can't look! I can't!" Spitfire was now hovering no more than 10 feet off the ground. Wolfboy's relief at realizing that Jenna had not fallen was replaced by a horrible thought. How was Spitfire going to land without crushing her? Slowly, slowly, Spitfire came lower until he was so near to the quay that Wolfboy could easily make out the complicated patterns on top of the fishermen's hats. The beating of Spitfire's wings, and quite possibly the strong smell of dragon, pushed the crowd back. Wolfboy watched their astonished faces as the dragon hovered about 5 feet above the ground, uncurled his talons, and let Jenna jump lightly onto the edge of the quay, running forward to keep her balance. The crowd applauded, and there were a couple of appreciative whistles, which seemed to go to Spitfire's head, for the dragon settled onto the quay, stuck out his neck, and rumbled so that Wolfboy felt it deep inside him. The crowd, fascinated by seeing Spitfire at such close quarters, especially after such a daring feat, was drawing near, pointing out the various strange bits and pieces that are part of any dragon. "Horrible black spines he's got. Look at the size of his tail. Wouldn't fancy being stuck in them claws myself." And then, noticing Wolfboy, "There's a kid on the back. He's got quite a stare on him. Wouldn't want to come across him on a dark night. Shh! He'll hear you." "No, he won't. Listen, what's that?" The rumble deep inside Spitfire was getting louder. Jenna jumped back, for she knew what was coming, missed her footing, and fell off the edge of the quay into the water. Still intrigued by the dragon, the crowd paid no attention whatsoever to the splash, as their princess vanished below the flotsam. As if drawn by a magnet, people drew closer and closer to Spitfire, watching the dragon as he threw back his head and flared his nostrils, listening to the volcanic rumblings inside him. Unnoticed, Jenna surfaced, spat out a small but disgustingly dead fish, and swam toward the steps at the end of the quay. Suddenly, with a jet engine of a roar, a great plume of hot gas streamed from Spitfire's nostrils and ignited. 10, 20, 30 seconds of fire shot into the air and across the water, where it torched the sails of 2 herring boats that formed part of the blockade across the river. At the end of the 30 seconds the crowd had gone. Many had taken refuge in Sally Mullen's cafe, only to find themselves handed one of the large collection of fire buckets kept at the ready, and told to go and put that dragon out before we all go up in flames. The rest could be seen running up the hill toward the south gate, with a great story to tell in the taverns at lunchtime. By nightfall, most people in the castle had heard a version of how the princess was snatched by the wizard's dragon, Yes, she was, I'm telling you, she was. Great beast of a thing. Then it dropped her like a stone, it did. Yes, it did. No, she's all right. No, she didn't bounce. She fell in the river. She's a good swimmer, that girl. But then the dragon, see, he turned. They all do. Great fire spurting out of his nose right at me. Singed my hair, too. See? No, look this bit here. No, here. Well, you need to get yourself a decent pair of glasses, that's all I can say. Most people had also heard the other version, too. How the princess was to blame for bringing the Sicanese in her pestilential boat. How she had tried to trap the rat stranglers in the castle wall by means of some dark trickery. And, well, if you want proof, I'll give you proof. She rescued a couple of vermin. Not ermine. Vermin. Are you deaf? Rats. You fool, rats. Took them away on her dragon. Now what do you have to say to that? And the speaker would sit back, arms folded with a smug smile. It was, people discovered, quite possible to believe both, depending on who you were talking to at the time. But everyone agreed on one thing. There was more to this young princess than met the eye. Much more. Stanley and Donnie had watched the crowd run away with a great feeling of relief. In the middle of all the excitement, no one had paid them much attention, as they cowered among Spitfire's thick spines. They sat up straight again, and Donnie settled herself with the air of a rat much used to dragon flight. I hope we get going soon, she said. I'm feeling quite famished. I rather fancy some lunch in the port. Stanley sighed, but he said nothing. He watched Jenna, dripping wet, clamber back onto Spitfire. All right, Your Majesty, he asked. Jenna did not mind Stanley calling her Your Majesty. In fact, she rather liked it, for she knew Stanley meant it affectionately. Yes, thank you, Stanley, she replied. And are you all right? Never been better, said Stanley brightly. Lovely crisp morning. Clouds clearing and off for a flight. What more could a rat want? Lunch, said Donnie under her breath.